marhumin, the marhumin of the people, the family who sponsored the Niaz tonight, the marhumin all throughout the world who have left this world. My teacher, Ayatollah Sayyid Hussain Sajidi, the marhumin of Brother Haider Shirazi, especially his mother-in-law. Suratul Mubarakatul Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وصلى اللهم على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. We are about to conclude the Ayyam of Azah of the first 10 days of the month of Muharram. And it is important for us to really understand what the idea behind the Ayyam of Azah of Abu Abdullah al-Husayni are. Really to understand, because when we say Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam sifwatillah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Nuh nabiyillah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Ibrahim khalilillah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa kalimullah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Isa ruhillah, Assalamu alayka ya Muhammad, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Muhammad habibullah, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Amir al-Mu'mineen. When we say these words of Ziyat al-Warith, we are saying that Abu Abdullah is the one who saved the message of Adam, of Nuh, of Ibrahim, of Musa, of Isa and Muhammad and Amir al-Mu'mineen. We are saying quite boldly that if we want to understand in summation the message of Adam, the message of Nuh, the message of Ibrahim, the message of Musa, the message of Isa, the message of Muhammad, the message of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the message of Imam al-Hasan, we have to look at the wujud and the being of Abu Abdullah, because it is because of what happened in Karbala and the success of the mission of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn in Karbala that all of the messages, which is the one same message of Islam, of all of the prophets, all of the Anbiya, all of the awliya Allah, is alive today. It is very important for us to understand that Abu Abdullah was not just one individual. Abu Abdullah was a movement. Abu Abdullah was that fountain of life through which everything, not just every human being, but everything that he touched, every land that he went through, became life itself. When we say in the Quran, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ, that don't think in those who have died in the way of Allah as dead. No, they are alive, but you do not understand their life. Their mission is alive, their being is alive, they're being sustained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't understand the type of nourishment that they're getting, because we live in this limited world, and our understanding of typical life is the life of this world, where a person is born on X day and he dies on X day, and he's resurrected for hasanat or punishment or whatever in between on another day at the end of time. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, do not think of those who have died in the way of Allah as dead, no, they are alive, but you do not understand them, their life, their nourishment, their existence. What does that mean? Every shaheed is alive, gets sustenance. Abu Abdullah al-Husayn is not every shaheed, he is Sayyid al-Shuhada. He is the fountain through which every shaheed gets life. His being, his message is such that once you connect to it, you become the manifestation of the life of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That is why throughout the world, throughout the ages, throughout the time, I believe it was Josh who said, after Karbala there are only two religions. One, either you're Husseini or you are not. All other religions, all other beliefs are completely, absolutely out of question. If you are Husseini, you are alive. If you are not, you are dead, period. If you are Husseini, you are with religion, and that is the main theme of all religions. If you are not, does not matter. If you are Husseini, you will live on forever. If you are not, you are the manifestation of the death of the enemies of Abu Abdullah. That is why when we look at the message of Karbala and the movement of Abu Abdullah, we see that it is not restricted to a single nation. And indeed, you can extrapolate that to the messages of the prophets of God, because Abu Abdullah is a manifestation of the message of all the prophets of God. His is the summary of 124,000 prophets. The efforts and the establishment and the work of the 14 Masumeen is embodied in what happened in Karbala, and it succeeds because of the sacrifice of Abu Abdullah on the 10th of Muharram. You look at in Christianity, they have the idea of the Good Samaritan. You have the idea of a human being who does not belong to Christianity, but Allah loves his giving nature. Therefore he gets the title of the Good Samaritan. But Joe says it does not matter after Karbala what religion you belong to, because there are only really two religions after Karbala, Husseini or not. The proof of that is, as we have mentioned earlier, John and Wahab are Husseini. The Muslims who did not join Abu Abdullah, whether they were Shia or not, are not. Religious identification gets boiled down into two categories after Karbala: Husseini and not. If I want to see whether or not I'm with truth, I see whether I'm Husseini. If I want to see if I am with falsehood, I see if I am not. If I want to see where justice is, I see where the message of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is. If I want to see where injustice is, I go the other way. If I want to see where humanity is, I go to the message of Abu Abdullah. If I want to see where inhumanity and torture is, the likes of Umayyah and Ibn al-Abbas and Daesh and all of these creations, I go to the other side. If I want to see where love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, I go to Hussein. If I want to see where the love of this world is, I go to Yazid. When we look at the message of Abu Abdullah, therefore, we must understand that it is not just a human message, it is a universal message that incorporates all of existence. Why is it then? Let me backtrack a little bit. The reason or the explanation that is, in Karbala, all of creation was present. It was not just a battle of human being versus human being. Even though Abu Abdullah is ma'soom, he is insanul kamil. Ali Akbar is ma'soom at the level of Ismat al-Sughra, so is Al-Abbas and Zainab al-Kubra and Ali Asghar and Qasim and all of these individuals. All of these individuals are ma'soom. They were not born ma'soom like the 14 ma'soomeen, the prophets of God. They gained their isma through association with the ma'soom. Ma'soom al-Qum is another example. People question, they say, how can there be more than 14 ma'soomeen after the 124,000 prophets? The idea is you become so close to them that their life is reflected in the mirror of your body. When we talk about Karbala, we must understand that On the plains of Karbala, human beings were fighting, yes. But in the incident and the story of Karbala, they say, at one time, all of the Malaika were present in Karbala. They went to Abu Abdullah, and they said, Ya Abu Abdullah, if you give us permission, we can destroy this army in a millisecond, less than that. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein says no. The jinn come to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, led by Zafar al-Jinn, and they say, if you want us to eliminate Yazid's army, we can do it in milliseconds, so less than that. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein says no. In the actual maqtal and the shahadat of Abu Abdullah, it is said in many riwayat that all of the 124,000 prophets, Rasulullah included, and then Imam Ali, and Imam Hassan, and Fatima Zahra were there at the Qatl Gah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And even the prophets of God were so distraught at the shahadat of Abu Abdullah that every time Shimr al-Mal'un would strike the neck of Abu Abdullah, some prophets would say, Ya Rasulullah, we cannot bear this. We are leaving. One strike, Adam goes. All the prophets, after strike, they cannot bear this. And the time comes where Rasulullah says, Ya Ali, I cannot bear the sacrifices of my grandson Hussein, I am leaving. Then Imam Ali says, Ya Hassan, I cannot bear the sacrifice of my son Hussein, I am leaving. And then Imam al-Hassan says, Ya Ummah, Ya Mother, I cannot bear the sacrifice of my brother Hussein, I am leaving. She says, go, all of you go. I am here to protect my Hussein. All of the prophets of God, all of creation was present in Karbala. And this was the divine message of Abu Abdullah and the companions of Abu Abdullah, that regardless of what situation you are faced with, you follow the commands of the representative of Allah regardless of what situation you're placed in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu wa ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Follow God and the prophets and those who have been vested in authority from amongst you. Following ulil amr after the prophet is the real essence of Islam. Real essence of Islam. And following the commands and the desires and the will and the thoughts of ulil amr is Islam itself. Everything else is a manifestation of kufr. I'm not just saying this. When it comes to modern Islamic political theory, the man who revived the idea of wilayat amr is Imam Khomeini alayhi salam. I've mentioned Imam Khomeini a lot because of the unbelievable work that he did within a period of 14 years. He transformed society. Society was hanging upside down, and he made it right side up. At a time where miniskirts and bars were made mandatory in the colleges of Iran, throughout Iran, Imam Khomeini took that shackles of the oppressions of the Shah and he turned it upside down. And all the time he is saying, my mission is for the establishment of Salat. Exactly what Rasulullah said. Exactly what Amir al-Mu'mineen said and showed. Exactly what Aimma Ahl al-Bayt showed. Exactly what Abu Abdullah al-Hussein showed. The one story that comes to mind, I was told this a lot during my childhood. Whenever we would go to Pakistan, my mamu was a close friend of Shaheed Arif al-Husseini. And he would tell us stories about Imam Khomeini's life. Like when he was in France for 6 months, And in France, he had freedom to conduct interviews, meet with political leaders, meet with different news stations throughout the world. He had the political basira to bring political Islam to life. And he did that. But regardless of what situation he was in, whether he was on a TV interview, meeting political leaders, having conferences, making sure the revolution is succeeding, as soon as the time for prayer comes, he would leave. One of his ministers, Dr. Ibrahim Yazdi, who was actually a socialist, but he was a supporter of Imam at that time, he says, once Imam Khomeini left a meeting for namaz, he says, Imam, what are you doing? What are you doing? We're meeting the world leaders and you're leaving for prayer? He says, my whole revolution is for the establishment of the prayer. Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, the last act that he actually does is prayer. Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayh, his head is cut open in prayer. The sons of Muslim ibn Aqil, when they become shaheed, they ask for prayer. Not even just Ahlul Bayt. It is said that the Sahaba of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein were so adamant about their prayer that not even the time had prayer come. They said, Ya Abu Abdullah, it is time for prayer. And at their command, they say the sun changed direction for the prayer. This is the nature of the revolution of Abu Abdullah. It is about the establishment of divine precedence, divine morality, at an age where Wali al-Amr, Khalifat al-Muslimin, was considered to be a drunk, someone who plays with monkeys and has palaces, and he has the audacity that in front of Zainab al-Kubra, he says that Bani Hashim were all liars, there was no revelation, there was nothing, there was no prophecy, it was all a lie. In front of Ahlul Bayt. In front of Ahlul Bayt, he takes a wooden rod and he hits the teeth of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein with it. At that time, the characteristic of Ahlul Bayt was such that they left the world completely transformed. All because they were following the commands of Wali al-Amr. All because they were following the commands of Ati'u Allah wa Ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. I'm going forward, but all of Karbala is a manifestation. The battle of Karbala, the Shahadat of Abu Abdullah, what happens in Sham al-Ghariban afterwards. Everything that the women and children of Ahlul Bayt do after Karbala is a manifestation of the Wilayat al-Amr of Ahlul Bayt. Imam al-Sajjad, the severed head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Why? On Sham al-Ghariba, what happens? The tents are being burned. Lady Zainab grew up in the house of Sharia. She knows Islam inside out. She does not need to ask anybody what the rules of Sharia are. Yet she says to Imam Sajjad, the tents are burning, we don't have veils on our heads. Tell us, should we die in this tent or should we leave the tents? And Imam Sajjad gives the command. He is Imam. He is her nephew. He is younger than her. But she is telling the world age does not matter in following the commands of Wali al-Amr. Does not matter whether you are a man or a woman, regardless of what problem or difficulty you have faced. Once Wali al-Amr gives a command, his command is final, his will is final, his desires is final, his thoughts are final. And he says, cover your head with your hair and leave the tents. And they do that. They do that. When they are about to enter Sham, or Damascus rather, not just Sham, they're already in Syria, It is said that they had Ahlul Bayt wait for days outside the gates of Damascus. Kufa was a Muslim city. Many of the cities that Ahlul Bayt went through, they were either Muslim or they were not. But in Damascus, since it was the capital of the Muslim world, it had everybody. It had Jews, Christians, Romans, everybody from all over the world. Kind of like if you wanted to talk about Washington, D.C. nowadays, or New York, where you have the United Nations and all the ambassadors of the world were there. Sayyidah Zainab, seeing this, she says, look, tell them Kufa was a city of Muslims. Here everybody's here. At least give us our veils now. They get denied. Sayyidah Zainab gathers all the women and children in one circle. She raises her hands up and she says, I will make the bad dua, and you say Ameen. She looks up at the severed head of Abu Abdullah Hussein. It is crying. And she says, brother, why are you crying? He says, Zainab, if you make this bad dua, your bad dua will be accepted, but the religion of Islam will be destroyed. This Zainab al-Kubra learned this lesson at a very young age from none other than her mother, Fatima al-Zahra. When the oppressive authorities had approached the door of Fatima al-Zahra, they had punctured her stomach. She was crushed between a burning wall and a door. They had tied Amir al-Mu'mineen up. His neck was tied in a rope, and they were dragging his body to the city of Medina. Fatima al-Zahra, punctured stomach, just shaheed fetus. It is said she can barely walk. She goes with Fidda a little bit outside, and she is wounded, fatally wounded. She sits down and she says to Fidda, tell them if they don't let Ali go, I will make bad dua. Imam Ali hears this. He says, Salman, tell Fatima al-Zahra that if she makes the bad dua will be accepted, but the religion of Islam and the religion of her father will be no more. Fatima al-Zahra said this then when Lady Zainab was a little girl, and the manifestation of that character revealed itself on the impact of Sayyidah Zainab's life as they were about to enter Damascus. I want to talk about a brother now. I want to talk about one specific brother. Please recite salawat. Actually, I want to talk about four brothers. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about their mother. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was destined for Karbala. It was destined for him. Just like when Khadijah al-Kubra was alive, Rasulullah did not marry any other woman. When Fatima al-Zahra was alive, Imam Ali did not marry another woman. Because there was no woman at the caliber of Khadijah al-Kubra. There was no woman at the caliber of Fatima al-Zahra. Remember the hadith says, if there was no man like Ali, there would have been no men in the world at the caliber of Fatima al-Zahra for her to wed. Fatima al-Zahra was made with scale, and Ali was on it. Had Imam Ali not been there, there would be no man with the characteristics to have been wed to Fatima al-Zahra. Same thing with Khadijah al-Kubra and Rasulullah. But when Fatima al-Zahra leaves this world, one of Imam Ali's wishes to his brother Aqil. Aqil was the father of Muslim ibn Aqil. So he is direct brother. Muslim ibn Aqil's father. He says, find me a woman that belongs to a tribe that is known for its bravery. so that she can bear me a son, that I can wed her, so she can bear me a son that will defend Hussein in Karbala. Many different orators and khutbah and speakers have a different way of narrating this. Put it this way. On the one hand, Imam Ali is asking his brother to find him a wife. Imam Ali, on the one hand, is making a dua with the intercession of his brother to find a wife. That means al-Banin is the acceptance on this level of the dua of Amir al-Mu'mineen. On the other hand, she is herself the dua, and the acceptance of that dua is al-Abbas. That is why they say the wasila of al-Banin is always accepted. She was the dua and the wasila through which her dua, Amir al-Mu'mineen's dua became accepted. If Imam Ali's dua is accepted through al-Banin, imagine if any one of us partake in the dua through the wasila of al-Banin, imagine how fast our duas would be accepted. I'm going off track a little bit, but I want to explain something to you, because when I was doing my master's thesis was on the Azadari of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, as it is practiced within the different Muslim Shia communities within New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Right? There's one book called The Women of Karbala. It analyzes the female practices of Azadari within different communities of women in the United States, Iranian, Pakistani, and Indian mostly, but then they have some Arab contributions in that book as well. They say that, we have different nazar. For example, in Indo-Pak we have Kunde, right? That happens in Rajab. In the Arab world, in the Iranian world, they have another called the Sufra of al-Banin. The Nazr of al-Banin. Whereby whenever they have a problem, especially if it's a big problem, especially in the Arab world, if it's related to a daughter's not getting married, or not having children, or having family problems, they make a nadr to al-Banin, and as soon as that nadr is accepted, now different cultures have different way of making nadr. It's not all the same. But as soon as that dua is accepted, it's qabul, they have a sufra, what they call, which means in Urdu, Dasr Khan. They have a sufra for al-Banin, and they pray over the food, they do dua over that food, they recite Quran over that food, and they eat it. The idea being, she is the dua of Imam Ali, she is the wasila through which his dua is accepted. The dua is the birth of a child, so if girl or a lady in the family has marital problems that are directly due to childbirth or lack thereof, they make the wasila of al-Banin, and it gets accepted right away. al-Banin, that's not her real name. Her name is Fatima, and she belongs to the tribe of Kilabiyah. This was the most brave, after the Hashimi tribe in all of the Arabian Peninsula. They were known for their shuja'at. Both their men and their women were known for shuja'at. They were known for bravery in the battlefield. They were known for fighting. They were known for courage. They were known for strength. When the proposal came and it was accepted, the wedding happened. It is said on the wedding night that she went to the quarters of the children of Fatima al-Zahra, and they were crying, remembering their mother. And she says, I do not, since her name is Fatima, she says, I do not want to make the children of my mistress Fatima al-Zahra cry. Therefore, I do not want to be called Fatima to Fatima. Call me by another name. They call her mother. She says, I don't deserve to be called your mother. I am your servant. This is the characteristic of that woman. She bears 4 sons. The youngest one is Al-Abbas. And every instant she gets, she tells them, Hasanain are not your brothers, they're your masters. Lady Zainab is your mistress, she's not your sister. Kulthum is your mistress, she's not your sister. These are the sons of Fatima al-Zahra. You are my sons. And it's because she had 4 sons, one after the other, she became known as Ummul Banin, mother of sons. Banin is sigha jam of the Arabic word for sons. Ibn. Banin comes from Ibn, which means sons. Ummul Banin, the mother of sons. The mother of sons. She raises up all 4 sons for the service of Ahlul Bayt. All our children grow up realizing that, hoping that they would get the blessing of losing their lives in the service of the sons of Fatima al-Zahra. All of them. Each and every single one of them. Now put yourself in the shoes of Ahlul Bayt. It is the night of the 19th of Ramadan. Amir al-Mu'mineen has established his government. Government has finally been given to Imam Ali. On that night, it is said, Imam Ali only has 3 days after that night. Or 3 nights and 2 days, something along those lines. It is said that Imam Ali, on the nights of Ramadan, he would go to one of his children, especially daughters' houses to eat food, to break his fast. And he would usually have either one thing only, either milk or salt or one thing only. That night, he's at Kulthum's house. Kulthum brings 2 things. He tells her, this is not my tradition, take one of these things away. She wants to take away the salt or the bread. He says, take away the milk. And the night becomes. Kulthum sees Imam Ali goes from the house to the sahad, to the courtyard. Every time he goes to the courtyard, he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is the night that Rasulullah has reminded me of. That morning, when Amir al-Mu'mineen is about to leave for Salat al-Fajr in Masjid al-Kufa, he knows what's going to happen to him. It is said that they had birds, literally geese, that would surround Amir al-Mu'mineen on that night, on that day. And they would peck and they would implore. It was their dua as animals that Amir al-Mu'mineen never go see Masjid al-Kufa on that day. But then Kulthum gets up, she sees that this is happening. Amir al-Mu'mineen sends her a wasiyah, saying that after me, if you do not have enough food to feed them, let them go. Let them find their own food, let them go. Amir al-Mu'mineen, on his way to Masjid al-Kufa, he wakes up everybody. When he goes to Masjid al-Kufa, Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim is lying down asleep, stomach on the floor, and he has the poisoned sword through which he is going to assassinate Imam Ali. Imam Ali even wakes up Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim. Imam Ali even wakes up Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim. When Imam Ali is in sajda, Abdul Rahman comes from behind and he strikes the head of Imam Ali. It is said that blood started gushing forth from the wound of Imam Ali. Imam Ali, he ordered Imam al-Hasan to finish the prayer, and he was brought back to his house. I'm cutting the story short of the shahadat of Imam Ali. But it is said that as the days would progress, At night would become day. The poison that was on the sword of Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam would circulate throughout Imam Ali's body. He would become paler and paler and paler. All the time he was handing off all of his children, all of his servants, all of his family members to the custody of Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hasan. One time he said, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he fell asleep and he woke up and he saw al-Baneen crying in front of him, crying at the footsteps of Imam Ali. He says, al-Baneen, why are you crying? She says, oh Master, Ya Ali, you have given everyone to the son of Fatima al-Zahra al-Hasan. You have not given Abbas to anybody. What is the problem with my Abbas that you have not given him to anybody? He brings about Abdullah al-Husayn. He brings about Abdullah al-Husayn and al-Abbas, and he gives Abbas to Abdullah al-Husayn, basically saying that Abbas, you were born for Karbala. On the day of Ashura, when all the companions had left the world, all the companions had been martyred, Ali Akbar had left, Qasim had left, all Muhammad have left, all of the companions and the family members of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn have left the world. Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, he is reluctant to give al-Abbas permission to go fight in the battlefield. Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, every time Abbas comes to Imam Hussein, he says, Abbas, you are the standard bearer of my army. You are the one through whom my army is known. How can I let you go? You are the standard bearer. You are the markaz. You are the maqam of the army. At the very end, when there was nobody left, he says, Master, where is that army left? So Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, he does not give Abbas permission to go fight. He says, go get water for the children. But first, go seek permission from Zainab al-Kubra. I mentioned the shahadat of Imam Ali for this reason. When he goes to Zainab al-Kubra's tent, she says, Abbas, I know you are going to the battlefield. I want to tell you a story. When the Rasulullah was alive and I was a little girl, Rasulullah would always kiss my head, my veil, and my hands, and he would cry. When Rasulullah left this world, I did not have the courage to ask Rasulullah why he did that. She says, when Rasulullah left this world, my father Ali would kiss my head and my hands and my arms, and he would cry. When my father was about to leave this world, on the nights of his shahada, I asked him once, in the days of his shahada, Father, why do you kiss my hand and my veil and my head? He says, Zainab, there will be a time where you will have no veil on your head and your hands will be tied in shackles and chains. Abbas, she says, Abbas, I always thought, I knew what my father was going to, what my father has said was going to come true, but I always thought that if I always had a brother like Abbas, nobody would be able to come to me. Abbas, now I know my veil will be stolen. Abbas, now I know my hands will be tied in chains. Go fetch water. It is said that Abu Abdullah al-Husayn did not give permission for Abbas to carry a sword. He would carry a lance with which he would divide the people. It is said that he got to the riverbank and he was filling up the water bag. Before he filled up the water bag, as a sign, he puts his hands in a cup and he puts them in the water. He looks at it, he sees his reflection, and he remembers the thirst of his brother Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, and he throws the water back into the water, but back into the river, and he says, Ya nafs min ba'd al-Husayni huni. Oh nafs, after Husayn there is nothing. After Hussein there is nothing. He fills up the water bag and he mounts his horse. Nobody can stop Abbas. It is said that Umar ibn Sa'ad says that Yazid will kill all of us. Yazid will take his revenge on us if we let water enter the tent of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. Al-Abbas, he has both hands right now, but he goes to an area of Karbala where there are trees. And it said at one time, there was one man hiding behind a tree. He came to the back of Abu al-Fadl and he cut off his right hand. Another person, he comes to the other side and he cuts off his left hand. It is said at that time the one shaqi, one mal'oon, he throws an arrow and hits the eye of Abu al-Fadl. Abu al-Fadl wants to take out the arrow from his eyes, so he bends down. And he wants to take out the arrow with his knee, with his knee. It is said at that time, another shaqi, another mal'oon, he takes a chance and he strikes the head of Al-Abbas. Al-Abbas, it is said, his body becomes covered with arrows. Now I ask you, when an ordinary person experiences a difficulty and they experience a fall, they have hands to break their fall. Abbas fell on the ground of Karbala, but he did not have any hands. Furthermore, he did not fall onto the ground. Remember, his chest, his eye, his head were covered with arrows. Al-Abbas, like Hussein, fell on arrows. He did not fall on the ground of Karbala. Al-Abbas, when he calls on to his master Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to help him, it is said that Al-Abbas, he heard somebody coming near him. When he heard somebody coming near him, remember, there was an arrow in his eye. His eyes were covered with blood. He could not see. He thought it was a shaqi, a member of Yazid's army. He says, give me some time, so that my master Hussein can come, and I want to bid him farewell myself. Abu Abdullah looks at Abbas and he says, Abbas, this is your brother Hussein. Imam Hussein, he takes Abbas's head and he puts it on his lap. Abbas takes it back out of the lap of Abu Abdullah. Imam Hussein asks him, Abbas, why are you doing this? He says, Yabna Zahra, right now you are putting my head on your lap. There will be a time where you will be being slaughtered, and there will be nobody to put your head on their lap. And he makes two wasiyah to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. One is, don't take my body back to Khayyam Husseini, to the tents. Why? Because I am shy of Sakina. I promised her water, I could not give it to her. And then he says, tell my sister, Lady Zainab, I am sorry. He asked him, why are you sorry, Abbas? He says, I was the one who mounted her on her Savari, on her horse to Karbala, on her ride to Karbala. I will not be the one to mount her when she comes home. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein says, fine, Abbas, but I have one request. He says, what? He says, Abbas, all my life you have called me master. One time I want you to call me brother. Abbas is breathing his last, and his last wish is the fulfillment of the dua of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. His last words are brother, meaning Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabi yanqalibun. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim.